Was it Micron?
Yeah.
X-Men Legacy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Micron.
One of the things I really liked about this was seeing Scott Summers in a role that he was like a general. He was a leader of this small group of people. There was like, what, 300, less than 300 of them left now.
Yeah.
The X-Men, the mutant race has now been dwindled down to less than 300. And every casualty is a shockwave. It's like every casualty matters. Every person counts at this point. And he's got to hold that line. He's got to keep everyone together. And he's got to kind of take that leader role that he was put into. He was trained for since he was young. And I like seeing Scott in that kind of role and really stand out like that. And I think the position that all these mutants are put in where every person counts like that really has great ramifications and brings value to life like that.
Yeah.
And they look to Hope with that much more hope. They needed some guidance like that.
Another thing to be was that he's since this first happened with when Hope was first born, Scott's been making a lot of decisions that were questionable morality wise. But he's felt that they need to be done. He's formed X Factor, which is basically their Black Ops team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of come to light now, and people are looking at him like, "What? You did what now?"
Yeah.
And it's like this role that, and even now, Professor X is like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You know what? I see your dream still, but it can't survive with what we have now. We have to find a new dream, and I still believe in your views, but we have to take a new methods to it." And that's what Scott steps up and says, "You know what? That's a great idea. You know that worked great back in the day, but we need something different
and you
now."
saw that with Messiah Complex. That's kind of where the start of Cyclops being the way he is now. That's where it began. You saw him. You know, he had to make those dark decisions.
Coming into his own.
Coming into his own. And here he is as a full-on, the general, a full-on savior of mutants. Really, like people say it was Hope, but it was really him. He's the one that fought and did the things that needed to get done for it to happen.
My pick of this for the event was Blackest Night. It had, as always, just millions of tie-ins and all together, but the main storyline, Blackest Night and Green Lantern, flowed perfectly together. Yeah. And it's maybe it's because it was so big and it brought in so many characters you liked and cared about, is why I liked it. But it had it addressed the idea that the cores each have their own power. They each have their own source, and there's more than just the will out there. Yeah. There's hope. There's love. There's compassion, there's rage, and it brings all those core members to come back, and then it starts to deal with the fact that all these other people have died and come back and died and come back, and this kind of addresses that point, like, wait, how are all these people just coming back and forth? And they address that with Blackest Night. I know what you said about it. I mean, we've talked about Blackest Night before. Oh. It's pretty great. I enjoy it.
I enjoyed it as well. I feel like it was a great, like, kind of a blockbuster, but it wasn't just like a cheesy blockbuster. It had a well-written story behind it as well, so it had that double whammy kind of there.
The ending was lackluster, though. I'm sorry.
I felt like the story, I don't know, I kind of disagree with that, and I agree with that at the same time. I liked the story, it was great, but I felt the villain, the antagonist, Necron, was a little weak. I liked him as an entity, but putting him behind all these past crises and events and stuff at the last minute kind of felt like a...
And that's the thing is too, when you have such great villains in there who you've built up Sinestro over so much time, and if Sinestro's on the side of good, who's on the side of bad? Yeah. And Necron was just, I mean, he's a one-note character from years ago that they brought back to kind of fill in that void. Mm. And it's almost the fact that you just have these big villains, like you have Sinestro on your side, you have this new character named Atrocitus who you just created, but he's a good villain. He's got good points and reasons why he's a villain. Yeah. Why he's not necessarily a villain.
There's a motif.
There's a reason for this, and it's like they're collecting together against a common goal enemy. Yeah. And this enemy is death itself, and so that I thought was good. I do kind of agree with the Necron thing when they first announced it, like, oh yeah, Necron, and people like scratching their head. Who's the what now? Yeah. Blackhand and who? Like I
enjoyed Blackhand more than I did Necron actually. Right. But because there was a history with Blackhand, I felt like Necron was kind of like, this is who he is. He was told, we were told that he was behind all these. We didn't see him exactly behind all these events when they were done.
Well, leading up to Blackest Night, we actually had Black Hand. We saw him involved with it, and as opposed to Necron, where he's just thrown in that one issue. And, okay, he's a villain from there.
And even then, they had Anti-Monitor in this, and I felt like he used to be such a powerful entity. He was in one of the first crises.
It was a crisis on Infinite Earths.
And now you see him getting taken down almost every other weekend.
Yeah, that is more the problem with events itself than I say the problem
I
with this book. But like I said, I think the problem with Necron is that when you have him against like such great people as Sinestro and these other characters, like you're like, okay, then what he has to have a better, richer story, which they didn't develop that. but the story of these people banding together in the end
Yeah.
and finding a common goal is what I think is more interesting. That's
It was. And also on the side of the art, I have to really give credit to Ivan Reis and his other collaborators in this, in that they really did a bang up job in just creating such amazing scenes and splash pages and just pages. Although there were a few times where I just felt like splash pages were just given for the sake of splash pages.
They got pages to fill, sir. They've got,
I know, I understand.
The quota.
Yeah,
That
that's
quota.
true.
They're trying to make that.
It is a
that
blockbuster.
$3.99 price point. Now they're down to $2.99. You don't know what's going to happen. You might
Yeah,
get a few
that's
less
true.
of those. You might be missing them.
All in all, I'm just picking at some of those things. I think it was a really great story.
No, and this thing too is like the Ivory did some great. You have these beautiful faces and some of the characters so well drawn, and then you have these necrotic, just decayed faces too. Like that shows his range, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
I like the beginning portions, like the first 3 issues or so, where it kind of reminds me of Identity Crisis, where they're trying to tie in themes, as you mentioned, with the whole deaths and coming back and whatnot. I really like that. And then it kind of loses out on that pacing towards like the 4th, 5th, and on, where it kind of irked me a bit. But I really like those first 3, and that's what really drew me into Blackest Night at first too.
What I really liked about it, because I was reading it on a monthly basis when it was out, was each issue was a cliffhanger, and it wasn't a cliffhanger just to have it in the sense of having a cliffhanger. It was a cliffhanger was like your jaw drops and you're like, I can't believe they just did that. It kept you wanting the next issue, and I think that's what it shows how great writer Jeff Johns is. I was very impressed with that book.
It's a good book.
Yeah. Now we're just going to take a step back and go to the more independent side and see stories that we all liked throughout this year that were not necessarily like from the mainstream companies.
Ken, you want to start things off?
Sure, I'm going to go with Turf from Image Comics.
What?
Jonathan Russ and Tommy Lee Edwards. It's on concept alone, it's going to sound kind of weird because it's got vampires, mobsters, and aliens, and it feels off the wall. But with the art, it grounds it really well. The stories are really well done. These characters, unfortunately, it's only been 2 issues so far. But the characters you kind of already feel by the first issue, you kind of get the ideas of who these people are and the archetypes and who they are within their story. Whereas there's other books I've read, like, okay, well, who's this character going to be? And this one, it's like from the issue 1, you know who they are, you know who's the intrepid reporter.
The script doesn't waste any time.
Right,
No.
and it doesn't feel like exposition either. It feels like they're just telling the story and you're going along with it. It's not like
it just flows really well, and you just get into it.
Yep.
I was originally skeptical about it, and Ken recommended it to me. I gave it a try, and I've been hooked on it since. I'm more hooked on the side of the sci-fi Private Eye team up, as I am the vampire side of the story. But I mean, there's just so much for all kinds of audiences. I mean, it's got the sci-fi, it's got the prohibition, it's got the time period piece kind of stuff.
It's great.
It's and the art just sells you from the get-go. I mean, Tommy Lee Edwards, right?
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Edwards.
Yeah.
He does great work in this, and he's done previous work in Marvel 1985 and various other books.
Salute.
Thank you.
I love that book just as much.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's so off the wall, like just the concept, but just reading it, you would not feel that. The writing is phenomenal. I've always loved Tommy Lee Edwards as an artist, and he's just I think he's the perfect artist for a story like this, especially the way it's written.
So, Victor, your pick?
Well, years ago, 2 years ago,
That's years.
yeah, Ken's like a pusher man. Slipped me volume 1 of a specific book, and it's been like crack ever since. Walking Dead, of course, everyone knows of the new TV series. Well, this is what it's based on. TV series, don't get me wrong, it's great, but the book, this is the 13th volume, the newest volume to come out. It's not a book about zombies. Get that out of your head. It is a book about humanity, of how people survive and react in the situation that they're given. It's very emotional. There's been times where I feel the hatred, I feel the pain that they're feeling. I feel the loss they feel. Like it puts a tear to your eye. It's just. I mean, Robert Kirkman. I mean, I love you.
Baby.
I love you. It's yeah. I mean, Ken, thank you, but you're an ass at the same time. I can't stop reading this book. Like I've reread all the volumes numerous times because it's such a great read, and it's cool because if you get the regular small trades, it's all in one fell swoop. There's no covers or any breaks in it, so you feel like you're just reading one straight story, and the pacing in that is just wonderful.
I think Kirkman and Company have really done well in addressing it to all the different types of readers. We've covered this previously on what format you enjoy more. You like single issues, you like trades, you like hardcovers and whatnot. And he has many different ways. You can read this in the single trades like this. You can read this in the single issues. You can read it in the omnibuses. You can read it on digital format.
Hardcovers, digital formats. That's another one. They did a great motion comic for the first issue.
Yeah,
Just right before the TV show came out, just kind of like get people an idea of what you're going to watch.
they
That's true.
practically animated like the first issue the way they did it. It looked the production was really well done. But yeah, definitely the was it 2-3 storylines that came out last year were just amazing.
Yeah.
Again, it captured all the emotion. It captured everything that you expect from what some of you may have seen in the TV show. So definitely, if you want to read Walking Dead book just based on the TV show, go ahead and do it. But
It's just consistently good.
Yeah,
It doesn't have a drop
It
feed.
never disappoints at all. So
And I like the way that the storytelling is done in that it's not just like a color filled book. It sticks to the black and white format,
Right,
and it
right.
adds to the effect. I think.
yeah,
I think if it was filled with all these colors, splash pages and whatnot, it wouldn't be the book it is.
it'd be like Blackest Night or something. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, you're here.
I didn't write it or anything. I'm going to go now.
I love that the book addresses, as you mentioned, the zombies are not the monsters. Really, it's the people that are the monsters. And I really enjoyed watching how dark and depressing the situation can be. In
How
certain
grim it was?
stories. Huh?
How
How
grim?
grim things can get,
Nothing can stop the grimace. Sorry.
I think I got a
It's
new
okay.
title.
I
No.
appreciate
I really give props to Charlie Adler as well. I mean,
Oh,
he
yeah.
picked up after the second volume and just has been running with Kirkman. They've been going on this amazing journey together to the Mist of Babylon and whatnot. It's just, I think it's fantastic.
Missed of that one.
My pick was one of my favorite new books. As soon as I started picking this up, it's just been nonstop. I'm hooked on this, like you're hooked on your Walking Dead. As well, I'm hooked on that. I just got too many things I'm hooked on. I got Lock and
Phonics.
King. I got Lock and Key by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, and this is another kind of eerie tale. It's a family who lived together it drops you in the middle of a story where the father and the mother, the father dies, the mother is left with the kids, and they move to this house called Lovecraft. So it kind of takes notes from the Lovecraft themes and the eeriness that carries. And this house is filled with mystery and intrigue and these magical keys that each key has a special power, and every door that it unlocks has a special